But first, it's a pleasure and a great honour to welcome to Wogan Her Royal Highness, Princess Anne. Well, welcome, ma'am, but it's awfully good of you to turn up, really, because the last time we were due to meet, I, in fact, let you down rather badly, didn't I?
Yes, there was a bit of an empty space beside me at lunch.
Yes.
On that one day.
Pressing engagement elsewhere, ma'am, I'm afraid. But I understood you made capital out of it, didn't you?
Well, I said, actually, I'd had the pleasure of sitting next to you before, and I thought perhaps you decided that as you knew what is in store, you decided to go elsewhere.
It's a foul and contemptible calumny. But I remember the last time we did meet, I think it was at a punch lunch. We were talking about, or you were talking about the vicissitudes of being a farmer's wife and how hard it was to make ends meet.
Yes, we were discussing that farmers all over the world, I think, are never happy. And that's something in my travels so far has been endorsed and underlined in several different languages.
Do you get very involved in the economics of Gatcombe Park yourself, as a sturdy yeoman's wife?
Not really, no. I leave the running of that side of life, the real farming side of life, to my husband. That's his responsibility. I'm required to turn up as a bit of extra pair of hands every now and again, at certain times of the year.
They actually ask you to pitch in and help with the muck spreading, or anything?
Seldom asked, expected.
Now, you've just come from a meeting, I understand, of the British Olympic Association. In 1972, you missed a chance to represent Britain in the Olympics. Were you very disappointed about that?
I don't know about missed a chance. With horses, it's never quite as simple as that. People talked about the fact that I might have been selected, but it was very much might have been selected. I mean, the horse and I didn't have to appear, at least anyway, that year, and we didn't manage really to do that, so we didn't get that close. It would have been much worse if one had gone very well, you know, and had been picked, and then the horse had gone lame. That would have been much worse.
I've often wondered why you pick an event like eventing, or venting, instead of something a little easier. I mean, a three-day eventing is the toughest possible game you could have picked.
Well, no, there are two different ways of looking at it. If you do it, you regard it as a sort of ultimate test of horsemanship, because you have to do three rather separate disciplines. And if you're almost anybody else, you say you're not good enough to be a proper dressage rider, you're not good enough to be a proper race jockey, you're not good enough to be a proper show jumper, so you do them all in 3 days of each other and make the best of it.
That's engaging modesty, I'm sure. But wouldn't something like dressage on its own be, well, easier?
Not necessarily, funnily enough, because it actually takes probably longer to get the horse to that sort of level of competition. It requires every day a long time, and the three-day event is still just about amateur enough that I can keep up, but only just. I mean, if I had a horse that was good enough to compete at international level, I think I'd be pushed to put in the time now.
Surely there must be somebody that would be prepared to give you a horse that's good enough, Princess Anne. I mean, of all people, you shouldn't be lacking a good enough horse.
Well, it just takes a little time to find these things, you know.
Of course.
They not grow on trees. They sometimes grow in bogs, but not in trees.
That's not a foul slur on my country place, is it? No, I'm sure it isn't. No. Do you get bothered when you if I see you fall off that horse once more on television at badminton? It was badminton, wasn't it? You pitched into the water.
Only once.
Yes, I know, but we see it continually on the television. Does that make you fed up when you continually look at it? You wish they could show something a little more dignified?
No, I don't think it matters quite so much the fact that it's shown. I think what's more irritating is that the sort of written word leaves this sort of feeling and impression in everybody's minds. That's all I ever do.
Does it give you any satisfaction when you see Prince Charles fall?
Not really, no, because you know he's going to suffer from the same problems, although it tends to be true that the sort of riding that he does is less immediately publicly noticeable.
But he did get involved with going
racing,
over the sticks, didn't he? And you yourself are going to get involved in a race at Epsom in the very near future.
Flat.
On the flat. Yes, but still,
Stand a marginally better chance.
it's going to be a bit of a cavalry charge, though, isn't it?
Well, it might be that. Might be that. I think Tattenham Corner could be quite exciting.
Do you think, knowing who you are, the other riders, and possibly even horses, are going to withdraw to the rails or get out of your way, or even throw the race?
Well, I suppose I could go a very long way around the outside and hope for the best. My trainer might not be too pleased about that.
But you're going to be made the automatic favourite for this, aren't you?
That would be very foolish.
Have you done this kind of... Have you done flat racing before?
No.
Never?
No. Everybody tells me it's much worse than riding 3 miles over fences, so...
And of course you've got to be enormously fit for it, haven't you?
Yeah, yes.
So, I mean, are you as fit as you would like to be for it? And,
No.
and if not, what are you going to do? How do you make yourself fit for it?
Working rather harder, I think. I shall have to make a...
What, down on the farm?
I think I shall have to... No, I wasn't planning to do anything quite like that. I think it'll have to be rather more sort of planned, proper sort of work, I think, exercise. And
Not weight training or circuit training or
no, I
Jane Fonda aerobics or anything?
I couldn't manage that.
Well, I can't get a leotard big enough to fit me. I mean, I'm sure that's not true in your case.
I think it would be the time it takes, actually, to get through the...
But it's for a good cause, isn't it, this Epsom race?
Yes, it's
for
for
one of your favourite charities.
Well, the riding for the Disabled Association, yes, which I hope will benefit considerably from several people's efforts, not only mine.
Do you find you must find the various engagements you take on an enormous strain? Who offers you advice on how to cope with these appearances? What to do, what to say? Or do you generally learn from experience yourself? I know you write all your own speeches.
No, I think, well, you learn the hard way, mostly.
Well, obviously, Her Majesty the Queen must have a few tips for you. And as you go on, do you, for instance, give any advice to, say, the Princess of Wales on how to deal with engagements?
It's not... I don't know whether you call it advice or not. You can only repeat, I think, your own experiences and the problems that you've had and the way you've countered them or got over them, or, you know, the things. I can still remember what it was like when I first started.
You said that like a dowager.
In practicing. It is important to be able to remember what it was like when you first started, and, you know, how you struggled to think of things to say and what sort of line of you were going to take and sort of questions you were likely to ask and how people react. But that, it really does only come with experience, and you can only help, if it helps, by telling you how, you know, you found it. And, of course, each individual reacts completely differently, so, you know, she may find it completely useless information. It's not something she thought of.
You've sometimes found, I think, certainly in the past, though not lately, that the press in particular have occasionally, if not misinterpreted, certainly misreported what you've said. How has that struck you? It's obviously you haven't liked it.
No, it can be very irritating.
I mean, the current, not the current, but lately, there's been tales, for instance, of you and the Princess of Wales not exactly hitting it off. I mean...
Yes.
You don't...
That was one of their better fairy stories.
Or the worst fairy stories. How can you counter that? Can you say anything from your position?
Usually it's not worth saying anything because rather depend... the fact that it was just a story in the first place, you know, they'll take anything you say. It'll come out on their side.
Well, I think it was based on your non-appearance at the famous christening.
Yes. Oh, it was a great shame that we missed the christening, but I was only given the choice of one date, And I'm afraid, as far as we were concerned, particularly with, it was a date that my husband had fixed, and he was away in Australia when all this came up, and it was
So
all
you're blaming Captain Phillips for it?
Not totally.
The poor man isn't even here to defend himself.
It was actually one of those rare occasions when we'd actually made a plan a long way in advance, which is rare with us, I can tell you, but we had done. And we'd received a lot of hospitality from people over the years, and this was really one way of repaying them. We felt we couldn't really put it off.
And the Prince and Princess of Wales entirely understood?
I don't think they missed us, really.
I'm sure they missed you.
They had a splendid day, and I'm afraid my children went and more than made up for in sheer decibel level, I think, what they may have missed in sheer presence.
You've missed a couple of royal occasions. I mean, you missed your mother's, the Queen's coronation, did you? They wouldn't let you go to that.
They wouldn't let me go, yes. Missed it. I was sort of tied to the rocking horse and then...
Did you know what was going on?
I shouldn't think so for a moment. I was frightfully annoyed a bit by being left behind, irrespective of what it was that I was being left behind from.
And then they wrenched you from your tutors and sent you off to Benenden. Was that a bit of a strain for you?
I'm afraid they didn't wrench me.
No, that's
I
just my colourful way of expressing it. You volunteered to go?
Mm.
Was that because you felt it was a bit inhibiting, working with tutors in the royal household, that you wanted to get out and meet other people?
Yes. Great thing to remember as tutors is, there's really only you and them. And it requires an awful lot of concentration. There are certain advantages in being lost in a class of...
Were you nervous? Were you nervous about going to public school?
No, I think I did actually rather quite look forward to it, in many ways.
And how did they treat you? Was there any bullying done? I imagine there wasn't, really, knowing you. Or at least being aware of you.
I wasn't that big a girl.
Well...
No, I don't think so. No, I wasn't really aware of any. I didn't exactly set out to. I was very quiet and kept my eyes and ears open.
Was there any toadying done by teachers or fellow pupils? Crawling?
I know what you mean.
Well, I don't, some of the people I get on this show aren't all that bright, you understand. So when you finished in Benenden, it is said you could have gone on to university, but unlike your brothers, you didn't choose to do so, at least two of your brothers. Why not?
No, I didn't. Well, I must admit that at the time I was rather influenced by the fact that I thought there were quite a lot of my contemporaries who were going to university simply because it was university. They didn't seem to be going for any particular reason. They just thought it was experience of I don't know quite what, really. And at that stage, I was being included by the Queen on some of her visits. And I rather hoped to be able to go abroad with her as well. And I just felt that was possibly more constructive from my point of view and more interesting than it would have been going to university. I would see a lot more than...
It was the free trips.
It was certainly free. But I thought they were... It's funny, because a lot of people think that, any sort of royal visit, you don't see anything. That you only meet grand people and that you only see what they want to show you. And, of course, that rather assumes that you never look out of the window or, don't stone deaf as well, and incapable of asking questions. And I learned a lot, I think. I mean, we went to some very interesting places. And the people you meet, of course, they may not... It's this wonderful phrase, ordinary people, isn't it? They may have been the top people in the country, but equally there must have been a very good reason for them having got there in the first place. And it was a view, certainly, and you could legitimately criticise it for being one particular kind of view, but it was nonetheless, they were worth talking to and asking questions.
So you haven't regretted missing university at all? But when you see your elder brother, and indeed your younger brother taking part in university reviews and madcap gaiety like that. Don't you miss that? Don't you? Would you have taken part in university
I did
reviews?
that in the Girl Guides.
But you're the Chancellor of the University of London. Is that seems, for somebody who wasn't a great fan of universities, to become the Chancellor of the University of London?
Strange, isn't it, Jenny? They weren't given the choice. That's all I can say.
Do you know who you were in opposition with? You're probably too modest to say who you beat for the post. Yes, you are.
No.
Are you
want me to tell you?
Yes. No, I don't.
All right.
Are you? We won't.
Don't you think it's a very good idea for a Chancellor of a university not to have been to university? Don't you think it gives them a much sort of better outlook? You know, there's somebody there who can, so they don't get too introverted.
How do the faculty receive you then? I mean, as a non-university person?
Well, so far, with great tolerance, but how long that will last, I'm not sure. It's been, I think, a great benefit to me because I've learnt all sorts of things on my visits to the various colleges. It's been fascinating.
Are you conscious of the fact that what is called in this business your image has improved over the past few years?
You're telling me, yes. Yes, I tend to wonder. I like to ask people what they were expecting, see, before they met me. And then I find out what my image was, you see.
What did they say when you asked them that?
I'm just about to ask you that.
Well, you see, the problem is, ma'am, that if I tell you that, you will blush in all modesty. You know?
Well, forget it.
My goodness, I just scraped out of that one. All public figures are security risks. To what extent is your private life hampered by security?
Nowadays, not really. Because living in Gloucestershire and on a farm is really quite off the beaten track and out of the public view, it's really not too difficult. But you're at home and they're not very much in evidence. In public, on your official engagements, of course, it's an occupational hazard. And I think while you're busy, while you're actually going about talking to people, you don't really notice. That's not to say that other people, of course, don't notice, because it tends to be rather more obvious from the outside than it is from where you are.
Do you and Captain Phillips ever get a chance to go out on your own, say, for a quiet meal?
Yes, again, because in the area and being a sort of reasonably quiet rural area, that's not really very difficult. We've actually got one or two decent restaurants too, so I'm not going to tell you what they're.
No, of course not. I and the family would be down there next Sunday.
You must know the area, because in Cheltenham,
well, I have to tell you.
Cheltenham occasionally, don't you?
Yes, I do, to support the Irish, and we needed a bit of support this year as well, didn't we?
Yes.
Did you have any bets yourself?
No, I gave that up a long time ago. When I was about 12.
Lost all your pocket money.
Yes. To my nanny.
Yeah. What would you say was do you enjoy going to formal functions? I mean, you have to keep that smile on all the time and be nice to everybody.
Well, you're nice to most of your guests, aren't you, really? You manage to smile at them and sort of keep up a reasonably intelligent...
But only for about 40 minutes.
Well,
you've got to do it for hours on
I don't
end.
have to speak to the same person for 40 minutes. I mean, everybody's different. I mean, you seldom meet the same person twice.
But the thing that always strikes me as a formidable task is the endless reviewing lines that you have to go to, say, at a royal premiere or a BAFTA award. How can you think of something new to say to each one that you come up to? Apart from I love the movie and...
Well, except for they usually introduce you before you've seen the movie, which is always a bit of a hazard.
I loved your last movie.
like when you're opening something you haven't even seen, which happens quite a lot.
What do you do under those circumstances when you open something you haven't seen?
I'm very short about it. I don't say a lot. I say I'm very much looking forward to seeing whatever it is that I'm about to open. Or words to that effect. But I frequently thank them for the opportunity of having seen it before I open it, if I'm allowed to do so. It slightly depends. I mean, you can play it two ways. You can ask everybody. It's rather like a sort of market research. You can ask everybody, literally everybody, the same questions. Like you have 3 questions for that afternoon, and you ask everybody the same questions. And with any luck, it shortens the time involved, because if the person standing next to the one you're talking to is paying any attention, he'll have the answers ready for you. It doesn't always happen.
But you're under constant scrutiny anyway, as far as your appearance goes. For clothes and hairdo, one remembers the BAFTA Awards, all the fuss there was about your hairdo and that. Does that become a terrific bore for you? You get fed up with that?
Yes, it's a little bit more entertaining now. Obviously in the past, I wasn't sufficiently interested in clothes really to be of interest to anybody. And that, again, didn't fit the image, and so whatever one wore was going to be bad news. And I think, inevitably, it takes people quite a long time to find their feet in terms of what's going to suit them, for any young person. It's just taken me longer than most, that's all. One day that was...
Do you still care about clothes or not? I mean, are you in...
They're more the functional part of... I mean, they're part of the working side of my life, really, more than anything else. Like clothes of official functions, and you have to think of the sort of things that you do and the sort of places you go, and climates you're working in, and what you're going to be doing when you get there. So that limits it somewhat. Also, the fact that you'd like them to last marginally longer than 6 months. So in that sense, you can't really follow fashion too much because you simply can't wear them again. So
you can only wear something once, can't you? Otherwise, they start saying, "Oh, look, she's in the same frock again."
Well, they had to give up. If you go on doing it long enough, they have to stop saying that.
Are you thrifty about your clothes?
Terribly.
Are you thrifty about everything?
Yes, I think so, probably. Yes.
How is that? Because surely you must have
had a Scottish nanny. I was well educated.
Taught you to watch the Bawbees. Yeah.
Aye.
What would you do if royalty was abolished? What particular...
I'd have to work even harder on the farm.
Is there anything you would really like to do? Any career you would like to have pursued if you hadn't been the royal princess?
I think it's rather difficult to tell now what career I would really like to have pursued.
Didn't you qualify as a heavy goods vehicle driver? Would you like to...
out of necessity I qualified as a heavy goods vehicle driver.
No, I thought it might have been some urge to drive a great Pantechnicon down a motorway one day and roll over hedgehogs.
This is just bits of media mythology, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was actually asked if there was anything I could do if, as you mentioned, the royal family was abolished. And just like that, I mean, on the basis that one didn't have a farm to work on or there was no other alternative, both my husband and I have heavy goods vehicle licenses. He has an HGV1, I have an HGV3. So, in fact, it seemed like a very logical way of earning one's living. And you could do it. There is quite a demand for good horsebox drivers. We know one end of a horse from another, you see, and we thought we could probably crack that one between us.
So that would be the career. You think you could bend your hand to that?
Yes, but you said, what would I choose as a career? That wasn't the same thing at all.
No, that's true. It's a sneaky...
And if I get any more offers for, if you really want to come and drive a lorry, come up to the co-op at wherever it is, or... a spare lorry go, you can try. I already do drive. Quite often.
Your Royal Highness, thank you for joining us.